your place down there?
I did.
Way down there?
I like it.
By virtue of your ward number, not anything else.
Chris.
I've been keeping your chair warm. Absolutely. Put my notes in a more legible form, so
Really cool, I get it.
welcome. And I'll give larger instructions. We'll start with city first. We'll do a one minute responses on everything. First one, I'll just an introduction and your priorities. And then we'll do kind of three general questions that we've come up with.
I mean, you could just pick right back in.
Oh, no. We're going to give you extra questions. And then we'll let the audience chime in. And sometimes they have good ideas. Sometimes they don't put anything in, but we'll kind of read it from there. They're mostly of us on, well, we just want to get the conversation started. So we'll point the question. Get you to that. Tell us what you want to do. Awesome. Thanks for coming in. So I said, we have 12 participants, and everybody's going to bring a spouse or a friend.
There's
a
there you
built-in
go,
crowd.
right?
Hello. We've got a place for you. All right. My idea was the name tags actually work.
I'm going to be there. Gentlemen, welcome. No, we're not. You're going to be lucky if we provide anything. Oh, Kevin, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Question, will you surrender your flag with MCDC?
Oh, didn't even know about it, so.
You ought to look at it.
Okay, I will. Thank you. Thank you. We'll take care of that.
I would be sad to have that flag.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention. We'll solve that problem. I kind of leave those things down there in Patty's hands, but then, yeah, whose responsibility is it? Well, I wish they would just let us know.
I says, I think everyone's got the building.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, we can do that and get started right early.
Just a real quick introduction. There's cookies and there's lemonade and there's water. I don't know that we have coffee, but you're welcome to join the refreshments early before Mike eats them all.
Just coffee. The coffee's too high. I broke my leg on Sunday. Scouting for a bicycle ride and had a motorcycle. Tumbled on the back road up in Nebraska. So
We're going to be snug with three to a table, aren't we?
no,
It's like a little bit here, like elbow room. I don't worry.
this one, the pole is always going to have trouble.
Chris, I got a question. Why do you guys split?
No, luckily they didn't even pass me.
It's just a filler. It's something
Just run the brakes.
to get your attention. Yeah. We do it
So now I'm waiting on the right brakes to come out. No, it's one of those what's funny. The first spell wasn't bad at all.
I get probably.
It's okay.
Nope, that's 12:55.
In case there's no table for color, I better get that. Come on.
They've done it.
Oh, yeah. All right. So we're going to start with city first, and we're just going to start here and work our way down. Okay. We do 1 minute replies, so that's pretty standard on through. You need to bring this up when it gets to your route. But Sarah, no, we'll have a time in front here. We'll just do like half a minute. So we'll do a 1 minute introduction. And that's up to you. And then we'll throw about three just type questions out that we talk about. And that should probably get us halfway through 45 minutes. And we're going to let the audience stretch. We like it if there's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of us. We like to discuss it. So we'll sit down. We should probably 3 or 4 questions. But I'll ask them. We don't need it. Yeah, any questions? Welcome. Keith does show up. We'll pull up a chair. I don't. So I'll start with you on the introduction, and then we're going to work down. You'll start the second or the first question. You'll start the next question. We're going to start with city. We'll do 1 thing, you get one last shot at the end to speak your piece. There are refreshments if you just came in. Welcome. We'll start here at 7. There's cookies and drinks over on the far wall. And there are some little notepads in the back if you want to jot down some questions. We love audience participation. To make it a little more manageable, we'd like to have you jot down your question, and we'll compile those, and then we'll ask those of the candidates. So if you want to, there's pencils and a notepad. Just grab a sheet or 2 or 10, what you need. Oh, they're coming in fast and furious. I love it. Up front.
Oh, my nose always runs.
We've got about 3 or 4 minutes yet. There's refreshments if you joined us. There's cookies over here. We don't want to take them home. So please feel free to grab those before. They might not be there afterward. There are some notepads in the back and some pencils if you want to jot down some questions. We're going to compile those for the candidates tonight. Just jot those down and give those to Sarah Kessinger or Max Blasky. They're in the back.
Good seats in the front row yet. Good seats in the front row. Let's just do a real quick microphone check. Just turn your mic on and just say hello or say your name, and we just want to check the level on your mics. Hello?
Check, check.
Check.
Hello. How we doing?
Hello.
Okay, same drill. Green is on.
Hello. Hello.
Let's get started.
Hello.
Hello.
That good? Front
Good
row,
evening.
back row?
Pardon me.
Yeah, if you're at the end, you might or might not get included tonight. Well, I don't think we've ever had this many participants. Thank you for coming out tonight. And this is very nearly 100% participation. I think we had one or two other obligations, and we understand that happens. You can never pick a perfect date, so really, really good turnout. And a nice turnout of the audience tonight. I'm sure we'll have some more as the evening goes on, but it's closing in on 7 o'clock, so the sooner we start, the sooner we go back home. And my goal is to be in and out of here within an hour and a half, inside 2 hours at the least. We get past that, we've probably worn you out. Okay, with that, I'm Bruce Dierking, KNDY Radio, Sarah Kessinger with the Marysville Advocate, and Danny Ackermans with BVTV. We are the sponsors tonight, so all of your media angles are covered. This is live on Blue Valley, BVTV, and they will rebroadcast, I believe, after the City Council meeting, which airs Sunday night. Getting the nod, yes. So tune to your local BVTV channel to see the activities. Max Blasky is my right hand at KNDY, and we'll hope to find time to edit this by Monday and maybe air this Tuesday evening on AM 1570, FM 94.1. It's on air online and on our mobile app. Sarah Kessinger with the Marysville Advocate has done a lot of work putting this together. Thank you, Sarah. And Chris is also here with the Advocate. They had a nice write-up in this week's paper with responses from the candidates. I haven't had time to read it, but I got it in the mailbox today, so it's on my to-do stack. With that, thank you for coming out tonight. We'll try to keep things moving along as best we can. We're going to start with City Council, and then we'll go to School Board. And the way we have it set up is just by ward or by position numerically. We'll start with a 1-minute introduction of each candidate, and you can talk about why you're running. And then we'll follow with 3, maybe 4 questions that we had of a general nature. And then we encourage you, and we'll pass out some of those slips if you want to jot down any questions you have. We want to try to get that done pretty early tonight so we can get a stack of those and do 3 or 4 audience questions for each side. With no further ado, I will start to my right with introductions, and we'll go 1 minute on each response. Jason?
All right. Jason Barnes. Plumber here in town. I grew up in Washington, Kansas. Lived there until I was 18, graduated, went to Manhattan Votech, got my degree in heating and air conditioning, worked for a year in Beatrice, and got done there. Worked for a couple years for Hull Brothers doing road construction at the plant. Then I got offered a job at the local hospital here in town in '96, and lived in an apartment on Main Street for the first year, and then bought a house, and I've been in that same house since '97, and worked at the hospital till 2010, and then broke off, and I was doing kind of on the side plumbing, and then just started doing it full time then. So, thank you.
Todd?
My name is Todd Fry. I too come from Washington County. Grew up in Haddam, Kansas, a small town over on the far side of Washington County. Coming to Marysville quite a bit as a kid to go to the movies and things. It was the big city at that time. Doesn't feel as big now that I've lived here a couple years, but I graduated from North Central High School in Marysville, went to college at Baker University in Baldwin City, went to school for political science. Always something that kind of interested me was how government works. So after that, I came back to Washington County with my wife and family, worked for Bradford Built in Washington County for a handful of years. Came over and worked for Landall Corporation for a handful of years. Then I shifted to the nonprofit space for a year. Turns out that's a wonderful thing, but not fit for everyone. So I decided I needed to come back and kind of stick to the rural jobs and kind of the opportunities here locally. So I've been in that role since then, been on council since 2011.
Chris Schrader. I currently live in Ward 1. I didn't grow up here, wasn't born here. I grew up in Great Bend, Kansas. A little bit bigger city than here, I think, by now. Graduated high school in '97, moved to Utah, and that's where I joined the Marine Corps. Did 4 years in the Marine Corps, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. After I retired from the Marine Corps, I moved to Emporia, Kansas, worked at a engine building department down there, built Detroit Diesel Motors, and then I met my wife and we moved up here, and that's how I came to Marysville. Lived here ever since, worked at a lot of different places, a lot of electrical places, plumbing places, what have you, and just loved it here and want to raise my kids here. It's a great place to live and just want to be part of something great and make some good changes. Thank you.
Parker Price, lived here 44 years, been born and raised 2 kids here. Let's see here, job history. Worked at Walmart for a while. When I was 16, worked at Temps Disposal a couple of years. Went to GP for 12 years, and I've been at the county for 12 years. County, the job kind of whatever's needed to be done. I got nominated to be on the council. I didn't get elected because the last person quit. And the reason I'm going back for it is there's a couple things to finish up with the lagoons and the screening process to make the sewer system better and to come in compliance with KDHE regulations. And there's some other changes and some better roads that need to be done in this town. We just have to figure out how to do them. And that's about it for now.
Kevin Throm, born and raised here in Marysville, Kansas. Been here 59 years. Schooling, went to Marysville High School. Then I come to School of Hard Knocks here and been at Temps Disposal for 30 years. My wife, Robin, works at Walmart. She's been there 35 years. I have 2 kids. And like I said, with Temps Disposal, I'm all over town and get to see a lot of things, and I know what's going on, so.
Hello, my name's Sheree Ferris. I spent 18 years working in the county treasurer's office. Probably recognized me from there. Before that, I worked at Walmart. We used to own Little Haps. I'm a widow. I have 2 grown children that graduated from Marysville High School. I'm running for office because I want to get involved and just didn't know how to get involved. I'm in Ward 4. That's about it.
Very good, very good. Now, we'll start with Todd, the number 2 position on this first question, and then on down Chris on the next one. So, Todd, this is your first one. This week is our final week for our city administrator. Austin St. John is leaving Marysville, and we'll be finding a new city administrator. What are your priorities with regard to that?
Well, I think the city administrator role is not only kind of the figurehead of the city, but kind of where the buck stops for a lot of our projects and what we kind of hope to accomplish. I think this is a challenging but good opportunity for us to try to find a candidate who not only can, write a great budget, can keep on top of the numbers, but can also build a team. And by building a team, I mean a team of staff, get all the departments, the department heads, a lot of personalities on the same page, hopefully working on projects to kind of help each other out. We've had a pretty good luck doing that, but there's of course always room for growth in doing that team building. But probably the biggest single thing is it's going to be a chance for us to have a little bit of a reset with the community. A lot of people feel like they're disconnected, or their concerns are maybe being overlooked, or they aren't being listened to, or they don't feel like they're part of their government. And city of government is supposed to be representative of those people. So I think it'll be a good chance for us to do that reset.
I'm the furthest thing from a politician as you can get, so pardon me if my answer is not politically correct, but you know, city administrator has a lot of hats to wear. There's a lot of things that they're going to be responsible for, so we definitely need someone who can tackle all those things. They need to be in every location, making sure things are getting done, making sure there's follow through with projects. A lot of things get started, they just need to get finished as well. It's good to start things, but follow through is really important. We need someone with the capability and the knowledge to do all these things, to be able to, you know, have a good plan, get it started, find the right people for the job, and get it completed. It's going to be a hard order to fill, I think. City administrators probably aren't the biggest job people are looking for, so I'm sure the pickings are going to be pretty slim. But I think that when we do find someone, we just need to make sure that they have the ability.
On and they're trying to get things done. It's not budgeted, and when the money's gone, the money's gone. And when the money's gone, that means that we have to do something different. So he has to fill some of that. And he's going to also have to be your public head that everybody can get along with and talk to.
What I'm looking for in the new city administrator is someone that's more outgoing, get out and visit with the people some more. You know, that's one of the things I've heard some negative stuff about is he doesn't come around and see the business people enough. So someone to get out and see the people, work well with our group that we have. Our employees are magnificent. We just need to keep them in touch with all them and the work that they do. City staff, same way, they work great with them. And like Parker said, the budget's a big thing that we need to work with. You know, make sure if we have something budgeted, it's budgeted, and if it's not, it's an object we need to put on the budget for the following year. That's all I have.
Every one of you guys really said really good things. I do think somebody that is that high up hired needs to be able to get along with everybody and make sure that he listens to everybody's opinion. I remember years ago that the city fought hiring a city administrator, and
If there is an issue with one of the crews, that will go out and physically, eyes on the ground, see what is going on, what the guys need, what they're running into. I think it's very important that the city administrator has good relations with all the employees and knows what is happening, and is not just, the office part is important and has to get done, but also is on the ground seeing what is going on around Marysville with the crews. I think that is very important to kind of build that relationship with your employees if you want to get stuff done. Otherwise, probably a strong personality to deal with council, like somebody mentioned, would be important, and somebody that is not afraid to give us maybe bad news or bad information if that's what we need to hear, so we can make the proper decisions. So, kind of what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Max, would you want to pass out some of those, just some papers if somebody wants to jot down a question? I'll finish with our questions with the city, and then I'll go to school board, but we'll look over those and try to get a sense of what you want to hear. So he'll pass some around and just turn those back in. All right, who starts with this one? Chris, right? Good. Chamber Main Street, Marysville Chamber Main Street is pursuing a historic designation downtown. Your thoughts on opportunities and challenges downtown, and perhaps specifically with opportunities and challenges with the city-owned Kester Block. The downtown district, historic designation, Kester Block.
The Kester Block, I know, has been a big priority on the city's plans. I've heard it talked about in several city council meetings. I know things are hard to fill, you know, certain people want certain things, but as far as the historical value of things go, historical areas do great wonders for things. It attracts a lot of people. It helps bring people that maybe normally wouldn't come to these areas. But on the other side of that, it also creates challenges because there are certain rules that everybody has to follow when they're doing repairs and stuff. There's certain licenses, requirements, and all these things that have to happen in order to make things better. So that, in that end, it could, you know, cost a little bit more to do those jobs and do that work. But overall, I think doing this is a good thing. You know, housing is a shortage. There's a lot of buildings in this town, in the historical part, that that have empty lofts upstairs that could be nice, affordable housing for people, you know, single men or, you know, single moms, even smaller families. So I think it'd be a really great value to the city to do this. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Historical side, the historical and Kester House. Well, let's be honest about it. It's costing a lot of money and it's not making any money to pay for it. So we're going to have to figure it out. And it's not slightly costing a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I encourage everyone here to come in and ask about it. Get the little reality. As far as fixing them up, hey, I hope it works out. And I hope there's some grants to help pay for it because it's going to be very expensive. So we're going to have to figure it out. Now it's very early stages. I believe this week they were in checking buildings and looking at buildings. Maybe even tomorrow I think there's one involved. So a lot of our buildings need a little bit more help than what we've been able to give them. And it's a specialty type of help. It's not just anybody can do it. So we need to figure some of that out, and we need to figure out where we're going to fit that in the budget.
As far as the Kester House, like Parker said, the budget and stuff with what comes in there for income, what we're paying out for taxes, there's a huge gap in that. We're going to have to seal that up somehow, raise the rent on buildings or come up with another way to start funding some of that down there. And as far as historical housing, I think it's a fabulous idea for downtown. I mean, the second, third story of those buildings are there. They're just sitting there. They've been like that for years downtown. But the problem is when we get all these people in here, if we put 30 people in.
To be maintained as they need to be maintained, not wait until they fall apart. They just need to be upkeep every day if that's what has to be done. And as far as the housing downtown, I think that's a neat idea. People can walk downtown, walk the streets, look at things, and they're comfortable living downtown. But like Kevin said, parking would be a huge problem, but a lot of people would probably park their cars someplace and walk, because you can walk just about any place in town. Thank you.
Okay. As some people pointed out, I mean, as concerning the Kester block itself, I mean, every year we lose money on those buildings downtown. Some of them we turn a slight profit. We're not getting enough revenue. We're not at market rate. We're not getting enough revenue to do the repairs that are needed to that block to maintain that so that they don't enter kind of a state of disrepair. So that's an issue that we're having some meetings about and some discussions to figure out how to solve that problem. As far as
of it, but I believe it or not, the city does some things really well, but being a landlord isn't necessarily one of them. It's challenging under the best of circumstances. I feel like that's a definite opportunity for us to explore maybe a management company, maybe outsourcing some of that to a third party that can handle that, that's well suited for that, and can utilize a lot of those upstairs spaces. The Kester block alone has a lot of wonderful upstairs spaces that are being underutilized, and you can go visit communities our size other places and see what they're doing, and you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This whole project with the historic district, it's amazing to me we haven't gone down this road before. I'm sure it'll have challenges. The key for us is to make sure that everybody's communicating. The city, all the stakeholders who live downtown, all of those that might be interested in that housing. I think it's a great opportunity we definitely need to keep pursuing.
I think we got y'all. You need something?
Follow-up questions?
No. I mean, you write it down, and we want follow-up, but to follow our format and stay on time, we're just going to have you jot them down. Anybody that has a question, raise it. Max will come get it. Specifically City Council, because we do want to coordinate those here pretty quickly. One more of our general questions. I think you're up, Parker. Infrastructure priorities, including housing. What are your priorities as far as infrastructure?
Now, and then we still need to work on a daycare operation. I thought we had one started, but that seems to have stalled and died. So we need to figure that one out again. And then we need to start working on roads and figuring out how we're going to pay for them. Because there's only X amount of dollars in the budget for roads.
As far as infrastructure, like Parker said, we're working on the new lagoons right now, working on that. We're also working up in the kind of the center part of town up here east of 15th on redoing some sewer lines, and that's done. The next year we'll complete the cured in place lining on the sewer lines. And as always, we're always working on water lines. We're tearing them up, putting in new valves and stuff around town, and expanding, making better loops so we can get better water pressure and stuff around town for everybody. The streets are a big concern here in Marysville. You know, we got so many brick streets. How do you smooth them out? You know, at thousands of dollars a block, you're laying 2 streets on top of each other, pulling all the brick up, relaying a concrete street, and someone's got to lay all the brick back in. And the old cobblestone brick that we have here in Marysville are not uniform thickness. So you got to add and subtract sand. You just can't just put it in there. So, and then the outlining streets in Marysville, dust control, what are we going to do with them? You know, there's a lot to do, but like Parker said, there's only so much in the budget that we can put around, you know, when you're covering the whole town, we're done. So, thank you.
I'm not real familiar with a lot of this, but I do think that Marysville has pretty much taken care of sidewalks and curbs, and they've tried to maintain different things, widen sidewalks, which is important, and it's probably costly to do that, but it's helping the community bring different people in of different handicaps or whatever. They can have places to live. And we do need a little bit more living spaces in this town. Rent is extremely high. I mean, I don't know, as far as building structures, I don't know what we can do with it, but I don't know much about this. I'm sorry.
I mean, a lot of the different projects we've got going have been talked about by the other people. One of my focuses, and it has always been, and it kind of fell apart, I was hoping there was some movement, is a daycare center, and I don't know if that falls underneath infrastructure. I think sometimes we prioritize, or it's fun to work on the things, you know, the events and things like that, and those are nice things, but I think sometimes we lose sight of making improvements for the people, what they need on a day-to-day basis, the people that live here, like daycare for their children so that they can go to work. You know, improvements to the street that they drive on every day and the roads. I would like to see more focus on that. Like they have said, streets, we'd like to do a lot more streets. There's just not enough money in the budget. If we do a big project, we'll have to borrow some money and probably raise some taxes to do that. But it needs to be done. So that's all I got.
Like previously mentioned, we've had you know, good success in working on our water and sewer. I would even count our cell phone tower approval here a while back as being an infrastructure improvement. That's been a big concern to a lot of people, including myself. But you know, we have an issue with a lot of infrastructure, and streets would definitely fall under this, where we plan to make plans, we make plans, but we don't execute. So yeah, we may not have money in the budget for something, and we can't just, you know, will it out of thin air. But I think what we need to do is focus on building a plan that we can actually execute on. Not a dream plan necessarily, not always going to be as fast as we want to get it done, but we need to make measured success a priority, because then people will hopefully see that measured success and feel like, you know, we are actually doing work. We also need to see what we can do about making sure it's all around town. I know a lot of people feel like all the money's getting spent in one area versus another, but you know, we're all in this boat together. So I think working on streets and some of those projects that will benefit the community at large should be a priority.
Well, I guess the trouble with going last is all the good answers are already taken, so I'll do my best. You know, living here is a great thing. Like I said, I love living here, and I'll be here the rest of my life. I have seen a lot of improvements. The lagoon thing is important. You know, sewer's got to go somewhere, right? So we got to make sure as we grow, we can handle all that. The sewer linings, there's a really good thing. It's going to cut down on all the repairs people have to do for the sewers and backups in their basements and things. So these are all really good things. New fire hydrant lines going in all over the place. That's going to help people in an emergency. Their house starts on fire. Well, now they have a fire hydrant there that's going to operate and get things taken care of. So these are all wonderful things that have been going on as far as infrastructure. But again, the streets are in a bad way. I know it's a huge concern for this community, And if it's not in the budget, those of us in charge need to find out a way to get it in the budget, because, you know, school buses travel down the roads, single mothers with their babies in the back seat. These are things that need to be taken care of. So if we have to take the priority away from someone else, somewhere else to get that done, I think we should get it done. Thank you.
All right, you did a great job. Those are the questions we had. I've got some good ones. If you have any questions for council, turn them in, because we're going to compile those while we have introductions from the school board. And again, we'll start to my left, and we'll just work our way down, and we'll toss out 3 or 4 general questions. And if you have school board specific questions, you can jot them down too. Just wave them and Max will come running. So I'll let you do introduction, and Sarah's in the back with your time.
My name is Rose Shelburne. I moved to Marysville almost 10 years ago now. Grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Fell in love with small towns when I went to college at Peru State, which is like teeny tiny. It doesn't even have an elementary school. And then got my nursing degree, and my husband and I decided to move down here to raise our kids in a smaller, more familiar community. I currently work as a nurse over at CMH at the hospital. I've been there for about 10 years. And you may see my face. I work in the ER. I deliver babies. I work on the floor. I'm kind of all over the place. But I have 2 kids in school. One in the elementary school, one in the junior high, and I figured I would love to be a voice for them and for other kids. And if we want change, I always tell people, if we want change, you need to step up and be that change. So if we want changes made, I need to step up and make those changes for my children and everybody's children.
My name is Paige Howard. I grew up in a small town in southwest Kansas called Hanston. I went to college at Pratt Community College and got my associates in elementary education. Went on to Emporia State, got my bachelor's in elementary education. My husband and I got married, and we lived in Indiana for a year, where I got to substitute pre-K through 12 and really find the grade that I loved most. I accepted a job in Atchison Community Elementary School in Effingham. Taught kindergarten there for a year, did preschool for a year, and then my husband likes to mix things up, so he got a new job in Garden City, Kansas, so we went back, and I taught kindergarten there for 4 years in Ingalls, which is a very small school. Husband took another career change and brought us here where he grew up. I taught 3rd grade at the elementary here for a year, and then for myself, decided to take a career change. I'm now at the Marysville Dental Care. I'm an accounts manager, and we have 2 children. Gwendolyn is in 1st grade here. Waylon is in preschool, and we have one on the way.
Hi, I'm Chance Hartner. I grew up north of Home City. I graduated Marysville High School in 2007. Following high school, I joined the Kansas Army National Guard, where I served for 6 years, 1 year overseas. I came back shortly after I got out of the military. I started working at the Marshall County Sheriff's Office, where I worked there for about 9 years. During that period of time, I always worked part-time as a carpenter. In 2013, I got married to my wife. We have 3 kids, 12, 9, and 7. In 2019, I stepped out of law enforcement and went into the full-time carpenter field, where I worked until for other people until 2021, when I started my own business. We did move away in 2019 for a year, and we moved right back a year later because this was home and nowhere else felt like home. And this is where our roots are, and I don't ever plan on moving away.
Hello, I'm Buster Schmitz from home Kansas. I grew up in Beatty, Kansas. Been here my whole life. As far as my education, I graduated Marysville High School in 1990. Not knowing what I wanted to do, I definitely wasn't going to spend money on college, so I entered the workforce. I was a carpenter for 10 years. 4 of those years I was self-employed. Went to work for Union Pacific Railroad on the signal department. Spent 3.5 years there. not enjoying life on the road, I decided to come back home. I knew Blue Valley Telecommunications was going to be losing a couple guys to retirement, so I put my application in there, eventually got hired. I've been there since May of 2002. Been married to my wife, Ashley, for 28 years. We have 10 kids, 6 of them still in the school system. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Reinhardt, and I was born here, raised in Kansas City for 12 years, then moved back to my dad's hometown. I have been married to Jerry for 31 years. I've worked at the sheriff's office for 36 years as a 911 dispatcher. We have 2 girls. Morgan teaches at Wamego, and Jordan is an RN at Cambridge Place. And I have 2 beautiful grandchildren who will be 5th generation graduates of Marysville High School. So I have a lot of interest in our city, in our schools, in our community, and I just think it's a great place to raise kids.
Good evening, I'm Craig Harries. Like a lot of these, I was born, born and raised here. Lived here my whole life. Grew up on a family farm north of Herkimer, Kansas, about 15 miles outside of town. Went to school here, graduated from high school in '96. Then went to Kansas State University, where I got my bachelor's degree in animal science. Got married, came back home to the family farm, which I now own and operate, and have been here ever since. Been married to my wife Kelly for 23 years now. We have 4 great children. My oldest son graduated from high school a couple of years ago, and just this last year graduated from Southeast Community College. I have a daughter who's a senior in high school right now. I have a son who is a freshman in high school right now, and I have my youngest is a 6th grader at Good Shepherd Lutheran School here in town. I have worked on the farm my whole life. I did work part-time few other places, small jobs here and there, and things like that. Grew up on a dairy farm and worked at the Kansas State Dairy while I was down there. So that's my life story. Thank you.
Because Craig did such a good job on the microphone, I'll remind everyone, kind of work into the microphone or bring it to you. I'm seeing some in the back row. My next one is kind of a short lead, and I'll let you finish the question with your response, and we'll start with you first. Teacher and staff retention and recruitment. The challenges with teacher and staff retention and recruitment.
I think a big draw to get teachers here would be to have an on-site daycare, somebody that's working just for teachers and their children. It can be a real challenge when you move somewhere and you don't know a single soul. Daycare is hard to come by in general. So I think that could be a pretty big draw for new teachers coming in. As for keeping them, I feel like supporting our staff appropriately is a very big issue that I think needs to be addressed in different ways. There's no right way to do it. I also think that retaining teachers by offering more monetary support. I know that they did a lot with the budget this last year, but I don't feel it was fair across the board, especially with the healthcare changes that they did, the benefits. So maybe taking another look at that.
I believe it all boils down to money. I think we can try to think of all kinds of reasons as to why we can get better staff and teachers, but at the end of the day, we're not going to get grade A teachers to move to Marysville because we got black squirrels. They're going to move for money, and we've got to subsidize our teachers with good pay and benefits if we want good teachers. I think we should want more than good teachers. I think we should want better than average teachers, and I think to get better than average teachers, you're going to have better than average pay. Now, that being said, I haven't had the opportunity to look through all the line items and on the budget of the district, and I know you can't just get money out of the air. We got to have the money to give the money, but I do think that is the main reason that people go to a new job or stay at a job, and it's for money. It's for salary.
Chance kind of stole quite a bit of what I had to say, but I have had the opportunity to speak with 3 or 4 teachers and some close friends of teachers, and I do feel there's a disconnect between the administration and the teachers. That is brought up quite a bit. Where's the support we need when we need it? I hear that. When it comes to the $7,000 quote pay raise, that to some teachers was not a pay raise at all. They're now putting more money out of pocket towards insurance than the pay raise will cover. In fact, I'm aware of one family who does not have coverage for the entire family because of this. So that's a good place to start. As far as the pay, when you have a young teacher coming to town, I feel like all they are thinking about is money. And that's what they're looking at. We need to look at the benefit package more, and as Paige said, be fair across the board, because I don't feel the $7,000 was a fair deal. Thank you.
I guess I'll elaborate since I've been on the board. The $7,000 raise was put on the base and then adjusted. Some people were getting a $22,000 insurance package, and some others maybe a $1,500. So during the negotiations, which I've been on all 12 years that I've been on the board, we negotiated insurance, negotiated salary. A lot of the new teachers coming in aren't 26, so they get to stay on mom and dad's, and insurance isn't anything they need. They don't need that benefit package. So we kind of thought it's fair across the board. Everybody got the same amount of money or close to the same amount of money. And then you can pick out of several different insurances and decide what's best for your family. Yes, a majority of the people did get the raise. It did take away from some. I will agree with that.
Teachers, staff, retention, and recruitment is obviously one of the major concerns that we have right now. If you don't think so, you've probably not been around the school a whole lot. There seems to be a lot of unanswered questions. Why are so many of our good teachers just up and walking out the door? Why is that happening? And why can't we get good qualified ones in here to replace them? And we need to address these issues immediately. I think there's a lot of miscommunication going on, and there's a lot of questions that probably need to be answered and questions that need to be asked. Our teachers and staff need support from our administrators, from parents, from everybody. They need to feel like they're wanted, like they're needed, and they need support. They need to know that they got somebody they can go to help them with their problems. And I think some of that might be lacking right now. Yeah, I'd like to say I'm going to go give all the teachers a $10,000 raise, but I really doubt that's probably going to happen. It'd give me a lot of votes, but it's probably not going to happen. I mean, you got to stay within the means of the budgets. And I do think all of our teachers are underpaid. That's just the thing that goes around. Teachers, bus drivers, paras, everybody. I'd like to be, okay, time's up. Thank you.
When anybody looks at a new job, pay is obviously something they do look at, but that's not always the final decision. I've known people who will leave a very high-paying job to go to a job that pays less because it's a better environment. We need to find out, like with current staff, what's their concerns, what's going on, what can we fix? Because sometimes it doesn't always need money to fix smaller problems, better communication, better morale, things like that. But they also need to feel supported. We need to look at supporting, like providing the ancillary staff needed for support, paras, adequate support for those teachers that do have, problem students or students that need extra help. We need support for those teachers and those students, and money helps with that. But having that communication between administration, staff is really, really helpful in all of that, and having that transparency between administration and staff and knowing what's going on. Thank you.
Who looked at my notes? That was the next question y'all just answered, and it had to do with salary and benefits. I think they kind of covered that. I can go back if we'd like to, but I think I'll move on because y'all kind of addressed that as part of a broader question. So I'm going to move on. Chance, I think you're up next. The issue of child care, and this came up in our conversation for both the council and the school. I thought I'd start with the school since you deal directly with kids. Could the district be involved in child care options?
Yes, I don't see any reason why. I guess my question back to that is I was under the understanding that we already do have childcare. My kids go to the Kids U program every day after school. I know that that's not rated for babies and toddlers, and that's something that could be, I think, easily implemented into the Kids U program to accept younger children that aren't school-aged kids yet. But as far as the older kids, we already have that program in place, and I love it. It's very beneficial for us. They can be there till 5:30, so me or only one of me or my wife have to be off by 5:30 to get them. So yeah, maybe revamping that program, I think, would be the easiest avenue to get some kind of child care program into the school.
As far as child care, yes, I'm aware it's a big deal in the city, the community, and what do? Obviously, at this point, we don't have a bunch of people stepping up to be daycare providers, so is it even feasible? Is it something we can look at? Is this something else we're going to want the teachers to step up and take on? A lot of these teachers are already doing a lot. It's a discussion that needs to be had. I really don't have the answer for that, but if we can make it work, I'm open to options.
Well, I'll just probably reiterate what they said. In extending the Kids U program, if that would be an option, I'm just not sure where you would put it, where you would handle it during the day when the whole building's already being used. It's a community, school, county problem. I don't think there's enough daycare within our rural area anywhere. But I'd be open to any suggestions. One thing I will say, if you think a para could run the daycare, we barely have enough to fill the spots we need for paras as it is now. So pulling one from a classroom, I don't see as feasible anyway.
Yeah, as far as daycare or childcare here in the school, it's something I think maybe we should look into in the future, but I would have to agree that, yeah, do we have the facilities to do it right now? Do we have faculty to do it right now? We don't have the faculty to run this school the way it should be run right now. I mean, where are we going to find daycare providers then? And where are we going to house it? And where are we going to put it? I'm not saying it's a bad idea and something we shouldn't look into. I'm heavily invested in the Good Shepherd School down here downtown, and we just opened up a daycare there, I think 2 years ago now, and it's been a great success. We have a waiting list of people trying to get in, but it's still hard trying to find help. And where we don't have the faculty or staff right now to necessarily fill all of our classrooms the way we desire, how are we going to manage the daycare as well? I'm not saying that we cancel it out. I'm saying it's something we can look into. I'm just saying there's other questions and other problems that need to be solved and fixed before we bring on more questions and more problems.
As a parent, I would absolutely love to have a childcare on site. I worked at a hospital in Omaha that had that, and it was absolutely wonderful. Taught a lot, my kids a lot. Pretty sure that's when my daughter knew her alphabet before she was like 4, could do everything. But I know how many challenges that faced with that center, having staff and meeting the hours and things like that, and the facilities alone. I don't really know much about running a daycare, what it takes, things like that. That is just so outside of my scope of everything, but definitely something that should be looked into. I wish I could give like a sure yes or no answer. This should definitely be looked at, but I think we need to look at the picture as a whole before we jump into any main decisions about it. Thanks.
I can appreciate what my fellow candidates have brought up. Obviously, I have already said I think an on-site daycare would be a huge draw for new teachers. But we also know Rome wasn't built in a day, so I'm not suggesting that it be implemented immediately, but something worth looking into, especially to draw young families into the community to help not only build the schools but this community as well. I think that, were we to find a separate building to provide that daycare facility would be helpful. Retired staff that could be on hand to do that, all kinds of options and avenues there. Just something definitely worth looking into if we want to continue to build the community.
I think we got you all on that one. Good. The final one, if you've got questions for the school board, raise those up. Max will pick those up. We've got some for the council we'll go to here shortly. Our final in this round is the prospect of a 4-day or year-round schooling. There are alternates that have had conversations and maybe some experiences. What are the advantages, ramifications? Where do you stand with regard to alternatives, perhaps 4-day, year-round schooling, other ideas? And I think we're up to you, Buster.
I don't know if this is something that's been talked about or not. First I seen it was Paige's comments in the Advocate. So I think everybody would love to have a 4-day work day. I mean, that'd be great, a 3-day weekend every day. But in all reality, we're already having trouble, like we say, getting staff, getting everything crammed into a day. People are jumping from principal to bus driver and back and forth. Is our curriculum going to suffer because of it? I'm speaking from the high school level. I don't, my kids are in St. Gregory's Catholic School, so I don't know about the elementary so much, but I think it's a dream everybody has to spend more time at home, but is it feasible? Again, those discussions have to be made. Facts have to be put in place. We have to see the numbers on paper. We've got to see how it can work, and can it work, but it's a discussion that could be had.
I think I can reiterate what they said, but the other thing is we have probably 50% of our kids who wouldn't be fed that 5th day. I think you have to look at the whole picture. Who would babysit on Friday or Monday or whatever day is chosen? Would we have kids open? I think there's a lot of things you'd have to look at, but I'd be more worried about nutrition, if they're staying home alone, and then I agree with Buster, when it comes to the curriculum, I can't imagine getting everything in 4 days. I think that 5th day, I'd have to look at the stats.
I believe it's something that can be looked at. I probably don't have a decision on it one way or the other. I would have to learn more about it, to be honest with you. I can't sit up here and say one way would work or one way's better because I don't know enough about it. I do know that there are schools out there that are doing it and are trying it, and they say it's successful and it works. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not necessarily for it. I would have some questions like, if you go to 4-day, then you go all year round. So then your kids get no break, no summer break. Man, our kids need a break. They need a couple months off every once in a while, and so do the teachers, and so do the parents. And then if you go to 4-day, well, then your daycare issue just came back up again. All you parents are going to have to find a daycare or somebody for your kid to go to on that day when he's not going to school. And same thing with the meals. And you got to get those meals. I would have to learn a lot more about it before I was comfortable making a decision on it one way or the other, but it's something that can be looked at.
I've heard a little bit about this through different videos, things like that, looking up different articles. I don't really know a whole lot about them, but I would definitely want to see what the current stats are. What do they do with their kids on the day off? What's the cost versus the benefit? What are the schools? Are they running at full bore? Are the utilities needs going to change? Things like that. Year-round school, I've heard of places doing that, and it's not that they go every single week of the day. They have like a winter break here and a summer break, a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there. So it's just, you get your full summer break, it's just broken up differently. But yeah, I would definitely need to look at current stats, people who are using it, what are their models before I were to actually jump in and make a decision.
4-day school week is something I'm pretty passionate about. I came from a district that was at a 4-day school week. I felt like teachers were happier, less stressed. 2 of the Mondays, we had Mondays off, but 2 of the Mondays every month, teachers would come in for either professional development or a work day. It really offered us a lot of time to get our classrooms more prepared, grades ready, all the things that teachers have on their plates. It just offered an extra day every month to do that. We also did not do any kind of early release days, which I found a little strange, to be honest. When I came here, I had never heard of an early release day, and as a parent now, it's a little inconvenient to have to remember when those are and what they're doing and where my kids are going. I could go on and on about a 4-day school week. I do know that there are things to be looked at in stats and money saving. I think it also opens opportunities for high school students to babysit those days or get a job that they can work 3 days instead of just 2 on the weekends. So, thanks.
As far as a 4-day school week, I do not think it's a good idea for several reasons. One, our culture, mostly in America, but especially in rural America like Marysville, our culture is a 5-day work week. Most parents are working 5 days a week. A lot of them are working weekends and nights, but typically a vast majority are working Monday through Friday. So that leaves 1 day a week where kids are unaccounted for, have to go to daycare. Older kids will be out running around getting into trouble. And I just don't think it's a productive model. Also, if we're trying to retain teachers, I have 2 teachers in my family that they love to teach, but also one thing they love about it is one runs a painting business in the summer, and the other one was a farmer's wife who was able to help during harvest season, during the summer, during wheat harvest, and do all that in the summer, and it worked out perfect for them. They loved their summers off. And I just don't think that a 4-day school week is going to cause more problems than it's going to solve.
Okay, y'all did a great job. We'll give you a break, and we'll go back over here to the city side. I think you're up, Kevin? Yep. Before the question, they said we need to be leaders, not responders. So with that mindset, how would you help increase revenue, build the tax base, and encourage population growth? Increase revenue, the tax base, and population growth.
Great question. Revenue, the first thing we don't want to do is raise taxes. I mean, everyone's taxed to death on everything. Taxes on the property, food, everything. So as far as revenue, we're going to have to come up with something to draw some people back into town, more members coming to town, more people coming to town, more housing. When you get more housing, I mean, it all builds on top of housing and bringing people to town. The more people we bring to town, the more revenue it generates on tax base and everything else, sales tax, all that there. So as far as getting people to move back, we've got just a few major industries here in town. We got Landals, we got the school, Tension, Valley Vet, some of the big ones, the railroad, but we're going to have a big major industry come to town that's going to draw somebody here to Marysville, is what's going to probably have to come down to. And I know we're already drawing from miles away from Marysville, but if we could get some of them people that's living 30 miles from town to move to Marysville, but there again, the rent in Marysville is high and everything, so things we'll have to work on. I see my time's up, so.
That's a difficult question. It's hard to increase revenue if you're not taking care of the revenue you already have in town. We have quite a few businesses that have come to town, and we need to support them. We need to be there making their business thrive. And then the taxes, no, nobody wants to be taxed anymore. We just, our community is small. We can't afford the high rent. We don't have the wages as far as they were talking about the teachers' wages. The wages aren't there for what everything is costing everybody. So raising taxes, I just think we need to try to work and develop what we already have and work with the people that have the businesses that bring in tax revenue to Marysville instead of trying to increase our size, to 6,000. People want to come here because it's a 3,500, number. We don't want a big city. People that do want that big city will move to the big city. Thank you.
I think that in order to get people to move here, the main thing is housing. Obviously, we don't have enough affordable or quality housing, I don't feel. That ties into some of the road improvements. There's an argument to be made if we would improve 11th, 12th, and Keystone, and those roads were good, then people would be more incentivized to develop and build in that area. We have another development on the north part of town at Hartley Ridge. So those are things that need to happen. But I'm telling you, in order to do those projects, taxes will have to be raised. There's no money in the budget to do those projects with the funds that we have. And anybody that tells you that, they haven't looked at the budget and they're not being upfront with you. I'd love to say that we got a pile of money just sitting there. We just are choosing not to do those projects, but we would have to have additional revenue to do those. Otherwise, it would be daycare. You can't move to town if you don't have a daycare to take your kid to so you can go to work. Those kind of improvements are things that we need to do, and it will take money to do those things.
I think we're blessed to have the sales tax revenues that we have. That's a lot of money coming into our community. That's not necessarily by members of our community. You can lean on that too heavily though, and it is irregular. I think the way to build revenues and build success and build the community is by leaning into what we have. And by that I mean we have downtown buildings that aren't being, the upstairs aren't being used for housing. We've got lots of buildings in town that maybe are just storage. There's not enough opportunities for people who want to exercise entrepreneurship. I think there's a lot of people who want to do good things. They want to grow businesses, but they feel like that they don't have the tools, that the challenges are insurmountable, whether that's buildings are too expensive, taxes are too high, nobody's greasing the rails for them. I think it takes more than the city itself to do it. It takes the county, it takes Partnership for Growth, it takes a lot of organizations to lean into that, to help us build that up. But I think if we can foster that positivity that you can build it here, you can grow it here, I think that would be the best way for us to grow the community and its opportunities.
Money, my favorite subject. Not really. Increasing revenue. We need to support the businesses that we have. A lot of our businesses bring a ton of revenue into the city. A lot of people are doing little side hustles out of their homes and stuff, but if we provide a road and a way to get them in a building downtown and open a legitimate business, give them the tools, give them the ability to turn that little side job into a great business, then we can bring even more revenue in. Housing, again, big thing. We need affordable housing. If people can't afford to live here, they're definitely not going to be able to afford to open up a business and bring more revenue in here. I'm definitely not a fan of higher taxes. I know taxes are important. They're a thing that, cities and governments run on, and they always will. But I'm very leery about raising taxes on that.
Housing is a big thing and daycare is a big thing. We have to start solving them. And I guess I'll be the bad guy because nobody else wants to say it. We have a lot of things where you don't pay taxes because you get 10 years free. Maybe we're going to have to start looking at some of them items. There's a lot of things out here that are not paying any taxes on stuff. That's a lot of money not coming in. As far as supporting businesses, yeah, you need to support businesses. You also need to shop local. Easier said than done. I don't have all the answers. But maybe some more community meetings, maybe some more directions that way. With actual discussions, maybe we can get there better.
Okay, I think we had that question. Cherie, the next one's up to you. if you don't want to go the full 60, some of these are shorter type questions, so you'll use what you want to. But this is about code enforcement. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is code enforcement?
I would say code enforcement should possibly be around at 8, because there's a reason that somebody isn't following it. We need to find out why that code isn't being followed by that person. They are set there for a standard, but you've got to look at why the person or business or whatever it is isn't following that code. There may be a personal thing, there may be a structural thing, there may be tax thing. We just need to give them a little bit of leadway.
I'd say probably an 8 or 9. We've made a lot of we've made a lot of progress, I think, on trying to clean up Marysville, and it's been difficult. And if you've been watching the meetings, almost every meeting we have multiple resolutions and condemnations, but we've tried to get people to clean up blighted buildings. We've tried to get them to clean up properties that a lot of times have been a mess for years. There have been I've got a lot of angry phone calls. I got a letter in the mail myself about some stuff that needed cleaned up. But I think we're making progress. It's difficult because people get upset, and I'm the first person that I'll clean stuff up, but you tell me what I got to do, and my hair kind of goes up, and I tend to get kind of grouchy about it. And a lot of people are like that, and then usually you calm down and you go, yeah, maybe that does look kind of bad, and you'll clean it up. It's difficult, but I think we're making progress. So.
Yeah, at risk of calling everything a 10, I guess it's a 10 in that everything's important that we address and that we work on it. But that being said, I don't think code enforcement means cracking the whip or throwing the book. Almost never is that required. It's more of a, how can we improve this? How can we have a conversation around this? What are the concerns? How can we ameliorate those concerns? To Jason's point, I've been afraid a time or two if I left something in my driveway a couple days, I'm like, am I going to get a letter? Now, probably not, but the fact that I think about it, and I think that's part of it. People need to have that thought process, like what little things can I do? How can I show a little bit of pride? How can I keep things looking decent? How would I feel if I was the neighbor or whomever? So I think it's important. I think it's something we're going to continue to work on because obviously improvement can be made and we're moving in the right direction. But more than anything, I think that's having the conversation about what we want to be as a community and as neighbors to each other.
Putting a number on code enforcement, I mean, if I say a 1, somebody's going to be mad. If I say a 10, another person's going to be mad. Code enforcement is important. When somebody's issues become a problem, they bring bugs or rats or insects or snakes or hazards for children in the neighborhood. So code enforcement is definitely an important issue. And it just living in the city, that's just something you have to deal with. When I moved into the city, it's the first time I've ever lived in a city. But I was in the military, and one thing I learned in the military, especially Marine Corps, attention to detail. Everything's perfect, so I don't know if it's a matter of pride for me or what, but I really try my best. When I lived out in the country, I didn't care what my grass looked like. I'd mow it till it was short and keep the bugs away. In town, you better bet I'm seeding, I'm putting fertilizer, I'm doing my best to make sure my neighbors don't have to deal with an issue because of me. Code enforcement is going to be something you have to deal with in the city. The way you go about it is another thing. So I think as long as we do it in a professional and kind manner, give people the opportunity to fix the things, make sure you understand where they're coming from if they have an issue, then I think we can get it solved. Thanks.
Code enforcement's a 10 out of a 10. It's very simple. You don't need to live next door to a neighbor that doesn't want to clean up. It's not fair to you. You work too hard on your house, you pay your taxes, you keep your yard mowed. It's not fair to live next door to that. Then, when that person doesn't clean up, now it's costing you money because now you're sending your taxpayer dollars in there to clean it up, and they got to haul it off. And when you start putting time and money and truck usage, equipment usage, you guys start figuring it up, you'd be amazed how expensive it is to clean up a piece of property. It's outrageously expensive. I also don't think that your neighbor should have to deal with smelling the garbage or listening to the dogs that bark constantly. I also don't think that your neighbor should have to come to City Hall and beg for help because the rats are invading their house because somebody won't clean up their yard. It's not that complicated. Everybody's busy. Everybody here is busy, but you made time to come here because it was important. It's not that hard to mow your yard. It's not that hard to clean it up. It's really not.
I'm a 9 to a 10 on this subject. You know, it does need to be done. We want Marysville to look great when people come into town. You know, we've made a lot of progress in town this year. And there's a lot to go yet. But, you know, people say, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Well, you know, it doesn't always take time and money. Ask a neighbor, ask a friend. There's organizations that'll come help you clean up. You just got to get a hold of the right people. Don't lay it all on your back. Make a phone call to City Hall. They can get you probably in touch with somebody. There's other ways to do it without doing it and spending your money yourself if you don't have it. I know Marysville here is an older community, and a lot of people don't have the funds to do that. So we can work it out and get around to what we need to do. So.
All right, Jason, we're back to you. Audience question. Seems there's a disconnect between residents and city council. Many may not feel heard or connected. How will you help bridge that gap? Connecting residents, connecting leadership.
I don't know. I mean, I have people call me all the time. My number's on the website. It's also on the side of my truck. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of if somebody wants to, and they do quite frequently. And I always listen to them. If there's no, I'm going to be completely upfront if they call me, and if there's, I mean, all the rules that we have to apply the same to everybody, whether they are a friend to me or have a relationship with me. There's a process, and everybody has to go through that same process regardless of who they are. Now, people don't always like to hear that, but I think that that's what people want from government, is it to be fair and even across the board. If we can't do something on a particular issue, I'm going to tell you that you can't. I'm not going to tell you that I can fix your road with no money, or I can do dust control on a.
I think a lot of it's got to be the approachability factor. I get calls and emails, some of them happy and pleasant, a lot of them not, and that's just part of the job. But I think the way you make people feel heard and connected is you shoot them straight. You tell them if you can, you can. If this is a project that's not going to happen, it's not. But you explain why. You explain how that can be changed if they want to work on that, if we can work on that for them and work together. I think a lot of it is like showing people there's a process in place to affect change, to be involved. And if you can be honest with them and tell them, I don't know the answer, but then go find the answer. It's something I preach to my kids. I preach to people all the time, which is it's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to care. So go find the answers, help, get back to people. They'll respect that you tried, that you're being responsive government, and they'll hopefully want to be involved, tell other people to be involved, and kind of create that culture of positivity.
Communication, number one. When I was getting ready to get on the ballot for council member, I went around to get signatures, and people lived here 20 years said they've never had a council member come to their door to introduce themselves. So communication is number one. You can't vote for what people want if you don't know what they want. If you're not communicating with them, if you're not talking to them, if you're not asking them what they need, you're never going to find out what they need. So for me, number one is communication. And like Mayor Barnes and Todd's here said, you may not be able to fix everything the way people want it fixed, but you at least have to dig in, do your homework, go do some research, find out what you can and can't do. You don't come into this job knowing how the city council works or runs. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. I think if you do that, you can take back and get rid of some of this disdain that we have here.
Communication is going to be number one, but communication is a two-way street. You can talk to us and we can talk to you. You can't sit there and, I'll do it again. You can't sit there on Facebook and complain and moan and groan and everything like that and expect one of us to understand what you're talking about, or if you're even talking to us, because it doesn't work that way. Number one, I don't have Facebook. So everybody writes a bunch of stuff on there, they complain a bunch. I don't know what you're talking about because I'm not on there. So it's a two-way street. And Monday night meetings are open. First part of it, there's not very many people that show up. Hardly any. Usually can count on one hand. Takes about 2 fingers. So that's the other part of that is too. Get involved with your community a little bit. That's what we did. I mean, we've all got on a ballot to be voted in by peers. So we got involved. We put it forward. Community needs to do a little bit better than that and have a little bit more communication with us.
It's a great thing, community involvement, you know. When I get a phone call, generally I get in my car, I drive up to see what's going on. You know, you spend about 5 minutes talking to the person who called you. A lot of problems go away real quick. You know, you explain to them why you got this letter or why you didn't and what the problem is, and you know, they just want someone to listen to you. And you got to take what they say, come down here, talk to City Hall, see what we can get done, get the problem fixed. So, you know, so what? It's 10 o'clock at night. You still get in your car. Your neighbor's dog is barking. You go see what the problem is. You make a few phone calls, you know. Things can be resolved, but you got to get out and see the public and see what their needs are, so.
Okay, we all know it is communication. You've got to be there for the person. Usually that person is not going to come to you until they're frustrated. And they're just frustrated. They've waited. They don't know if anything can happen. What they're going to say is going to be heard. You have to be there. And like Kevin said, they're just wanting to air out their feelings and try to get some results with the problem. And if you push it aside, that problem's just going to get bigger and bigger. So we all have to work together, even our community or somebody else's community. It doesn't matter where you are. Somebody has a problem someplace, and we can share that information. Even if you don't go to your council person, you can go to somebody. You have to be heard and not let it get to an extreme to where now you're angry and nothing anybody says is going to work for you at that point.
Okay, Todd, I think we're up to you, and this is probably the last one that I'm going to ask, and we'll go back to the school board to stay on a timeline. 2 words, and I'll just let you interpret the rest and expound. City streets.
City streets. So city streets mean a lot of things because we have a lot of city streets. For the population we have, I've got no statistics, so I'll make it up and say we've got more than about any other town for a size our population. And so that's a challenge because we've got concrete ones, we've got brick ones, we've got asphalt ones, we've got gravel ones. I mean, we've got some that don't know because they're a patchwork quilt, and that's the problem and why I'm sure we're discussing it. We have had success in replacing some of our bad streets. We've tried to keep, Center Street, US 36, in good repair. It's going to be due again soon. Obviously, that's a thoroughfare. We've replaced some of our concrete streets that have been broken up and to the point of danger. We've tried to keep on top of most of the brick streets where the residents did want them replaced to try to, do the best we can to make them safe. What we haven't done is paid enough attention to those kind of peripheral areas of the community and their street needs. Obviously, that's a sore point to the people that live there because they're paying taxes the same as everyone else, but they don't feel like that's been handled well enough. So that's our project to work on.
City streets definitely need to be fixed. I don't know what the fix is, but I sure want to crack at it, I tell you that. And going along with streets, it's alleys too. I know a lot of people have come to me about their alleys are getting torn up for waterways or whatever, and they don't get repaired to get filled with rock or whatever. So streets, alleys, definitely a necessity, and we need to figure out a way to, across the board, get it taken care of. I know there's going to be more projects that are more important than others. We have a hospital lane that, the ambulance needs to drive, and obviously that's going to be more important, but we definitely need to find a way to do this.
City streets. Well, we have lots of them. They need repaired. Some of them were done wrong to begin with. The other problem you have is you have to think of all the infrastructure that's underneath them. And if you're going to tear them up one time, but fix everything. So city streets get very expensive very quickly. There is no There is no secret to how to fix them. There's no magic deal to fix them either. It's pick one and plug away at it. I'll pick the most controversial one there is right now. How about we own all of it before we worry about fixing all of it? Because we don't own a lot of it. So why would we spend your guys' tax money on something you don't own? It's that simple.
Like everyone else has said, city streets, we got them all, brick, concrete, gravel. And like Todd said, the patchwork ones that are rougher and rougher and rougher, but you know, we can just do what we can. The budget only allows us to do so many of them, so Gary, our street supervisor, does a great job of lining out what are the worst ones on his that he's got around town, and those are the high priority ones. Those are the ones we start with every year, and then, you know, the next year everything just moves up. So, you know, we rely on our guys that's out there every day working, and, you know, he brings a list to us, and that's what we work off of, so.
Me, I just go to a different block, but if the street's bad, you know what streets are bad and you avoid them. But I'm sure the budget, I'm not familiar with it or anything, but it is hard to fix a lot of streets. We have more traffic than we've ever had in this small community. So your roads are not built for that kind of traffic, and they're never going to be built for that kind of traffic. I don't know how to even fix the problems with streets. I know snow removal, maybe the equipment's too deep, maybe it's tearing up the roads. There's different things that we need to look at to repair, and patching them isn't really good, but like you said, there is things underneath, like your sewer drains and stuff like that, which could be causing erosion and problems and movement. I mean, my street, I've got a little dip I think I'm going to go down it one of these days, but you know, I just go around. But that's all I can say.
I mean, every year we do as much as we can with the money that we have. There are a lot of our streets that just, I mean, they've been chip and sealed to the point where it's too much chip and seal. I mean, it's alligatored underneath. They're getting to the point where they need to just be milled off and start from scratch again, which is expensive. And our guys do a good job of sealing and putting chip and seal to try and extend the life of them. But a lot of them, I mean, I think that's 30 years is the projected life of an asphalt street, and there's a lot of them that are way past the 30-year lifespan. So we need to do some more work on that. We replace, like I say, every year we do some street projects. I think 11th, 12th Keystone gets a lot more difficult to solve. If you're going to do it as a large project, then realistically there's going to be some special assessments, some tax increases, take out bonds, borrow the money, and pay it off. The other way to do it is how we had been kind of doing it, where we just do a section every couple years as we get funds. Nobody wants to hear that because that's a long 30-minute or 30-year process. But anyway.
Okay, I'm going to close with that. We'll let you do one round of closing comments after the school board handles a couple of questions. Chris, I'll start with you on that round. Just a couple of notes of things from the audience, things they wanted to touch on. Housing, daycare, we've heard that. Pandemic, increasing tourism, and 7th Street corridor. Those are some ideas that came from the audience. Okay, back to the school board. I think you're up, Michelle. Last night, the KBI was in town. They spoke about fentanyl and drug use. As a district, do you see a problem? Can we be proactive in addressing these issues?
It is a problem. I've been at the sheriff's office for 36 years, and I am amazed. I guess I shouldn't be amazed. Things, you would think I've seen it all. Yes, it's a big concern. I think a kid maybe innocently could take a Tylenol or something from another child, and it's laced. Having the Narcan, having those things available are great, but education and teaching children, staff, our public. I hope a lot of you were able to go to the presentation by the director of the KBI yesterday, just to be aware of your surroundings and aware of what's going on. Yeah, I'll be honest, fentanyl scares me.
Fentanyl and drug use. I hope none of you up here say, no, it's not a problem. Because if you don't think drug use or fentanyl is a problem, then we got other problems. Yes, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, and definitely something that is scary now in our society. How do you keep it out of a community? How do you keep it out of a school? Those are tough questions to answer. I mean, law enforcement to get involved as much as possible. I mean, I know they're willing to help out in the school as regularly and even more so than what they do now. And, you know, that's their area of expertise. That's why they're here in town. That's what we need to utilize them if we have to get them in there, and I'm sure we do now, to make sure that drugs stay out of our school, and fentanyl. And I mean, it's a problem in our society, and it's only going to get worse going forward in the future. I mean, with vaping and all that other stuff, you know, but we didn't have that when we were in school, and it's going to be a problem going forward, and it's definitely something we're going to have to address and stay on top of.
I see the things I've seen come from fentanyl and drug use and everything in my line of work it's heartbreaking. Fentanyl and drug use is definitely a concern in schools. It's so easy to slip it into anything. It's on patches, it can touch your skin, it can be on paper. So yeah, it's terrifying, and a lot of it comes down to is we need to educate the staff. I know Kathy Herder, the school nurse, has done a good job at trying to get Narcan into the schools, teaching people how to do it. And I know a lot of people don't want to be responsible for that, but we've got to educate our teachers, our staff. What does an overdose look like? What do you do? We need to be continuing pushing like CPR and knowing how to use AEDs in schools, when to call an emergency. I would love to see an extra nurse on staff. I know budget and everything like that, but having another healthcare provider, even if it's a med aid or anything like that, to answer questions on medications kids bring in, using that.
I don't know what else I can really add to what my fellow candidates have said. It's a problem not only here, but everywhere in our nation. And I think just keeping parents educated, as well as staff and students educated on what it looks like, the dangers of it, all the things that parents should be teaching their kids, and teachers do a good job of teaching their students, but it needs to be a community front on how to stay safe and precautions.
People aren't getting fentanyl overdoses from the handle at Walmart. It's from people using drugs and getting bad batches of drugs. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is educate our kids. I think we need a better drug education program in the high school age, junior high and high school age range. I think we fall short of that, probably nationwide. We all know what DARE is, and that's done in the elementary school age, and there's a lot of research that says DARE doesn't even work, because you're teaching 4, 5, 6-year-olds not to do drugs, and then when they're 14, 15, 16, they don't care about what they learned in 2nd grade. It's what's cool, it's what everybody else is doing. And I think we need to educate our kids more on how bad drugs are, what they do, and combat that with them not doing drugs at all. If you're not doing drugs, you're probably not going to have a fentanyl overdose.
I've been out of Marysville High School for 33 years, but when I was in school, there was already a drug problem in the junior high and high school. It hasn't gone away. It hasn't got any better. The government's got their foot in the door, and we got this war on drugs, and nothing's happening. So it has to happen here at the grassroots level. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Melissa Sandman, one of the teachers there at the high school, is bringing a guy in who's been very much exposed to narcotics and speaking to the kids on the terrible things he's seen, and things he's seen happen, people that have died due to overdose, stuff like that. We need more of that. I remember 20 years ago when I first hired on at Blue Valley, the local police department or sheriff's department, I don't remember which it was, come over and they brought paraphernalia, things that people should be aware of, when you're entering houses, because you don't want to get that stuff, come in contact with it or whatever. So it would be a bad thing to bring them in with the paraphernalia. This is, if you see this, stay away. You know, it's a good place to start. I don't know that it's the answer, but we got to do something.
Okay, I hope if they didn't answer all of your questions, they answered some of your questions. I'll come back to you for a final response. We didn't have a lot of questions, so your job's pretty easy, right? Did have one about prayer in school, and you can touch on that in your wrap-up. Rose, we'll start with you in a moment. If you have more specific questions or prompted a longer conversation, I'll kind of ask the candidates to stay with us. You can fan out a little bit, but be accessible. If you want to ask specifics of someone, feel free to use that forum tonight. Okay, we're up to wrap up. Chris, you're first. You got 1 minute?
1 minute's not a long time. And I failed to mention this. Yes, I'm married. Me and my wife just celebrated our 7-year anniversary, and I have 2 kids. A daughter's 12, and my son just turned 9. 1 minute. You know, this position, I'm pretty nervous. You know, I don't do things like this. I led Marines in battle, and that was easy. Doing this is scarier than being shot at, just so you all know. But, you know, I did this because I want to show my kids you can't fix anything if you don't get off the couch and do it. And I wanted to come here, and I just want to tell you that this is a service. This is a position of service. This is not, we're powerful, and I think maybe in a lot of places that's gotten lost. But I do promise I will serve this community to the best ability that I can and do my research and everything I can do to make sure that your issues and your problems are fixed to the fullest extent of my ability. I know one man in this panel doesn't make a big difference, but one man sure can bridge gaps, bring people together, voice your concerns, and make things happen. And I just really want the ability to do that. Thank you.
Okay, 1 minute. Trying to think exactly how to wrap up 1 minute of roughly an hour and a half conversation here that we've had. We've had pretty good conversation tonight. I wish that these would continue. I also wish that everybody understood how some of the meetings worked and how some of the coma violations work, so that we wouldn't get ourselves in trouble with them. Those have happened in the past, and it's created a disconnect, but it's also created hard feelings. And it shouldn't create hard feelings. It should be simple to talk to each other. The other thing is I think more people should get involved in understanding exactly where the budget is, exactly where your money's being spent, how it's being spent, and the thought process to deals. Prime example, we all talk about 7th Street corridor over here. It'd be great for that to be done. The reality is underneath it has to be fixed first. And then the other reality is it still has to work for the businesses down here. We've had numerous plans that have been drawn up on 7th Street corridor, and they don't work because it hasn't worked with the businesses yet. I'm sorry, I'm out of time. Sarah was waving at me.
In the minute wrap up, the 7th Street corridor, like Parker said, it's a big one down there. Yeah, we'd like to see it done. It needs to be completed, don't get me wrong, but you know, by the time you run water, sewer, we got a storm sewer problem down there, getting some of that fixed up. Housing's always a big problem here in Marysville. We're going to have to work on. Rent is extremely high here in Marysville compared to other places, you know. The roads, something we're just going to have to keep working on. A little here, a little there, until we get them done. That's all I have.
I'm pretty new at this too, so I'm really not for sure what's expected yet, but I will find out. And I just want to be there for whoever has a question or has a concern and wants to find out what needs fixed. And yes, the budget is very important. People don't understand, like, when they're paying their taxes, they're paying for your lights, you're paying for your street service, your ambulance, more than just your road in front of your house. It's a lot of things that covers. I do have 2 grandchildren that still live in this town. One's an adult, but one's going to college right now. So this town is very important to me, and I'm sure my grandson's going to stay. I don't know what the granddaughter's going to do, but anyways, I want your support and any ideas that you have that you can throw at us. Just don't do it because it's a ward thing. Do it because you want to talk to somebody and get it before you get angry, and then it will get fixed a little bit sooner.
Well, I've been mayor for 4 years now, so I think people probably have an idea of how I do govern, or, I mean, like it or hate it. I got into government to give back to my community, and because I'm a firm believer that I think government should and can work with all the stuff you see on TV. I think sometimes we lose sight of that, especially at the local level. It should just work. Every day I stop down at City Hall in the morning generally to find out what is going on around town, or ask about anything that somebody brought to my attention the previous day or that evening. I've also made every attempt to go to every league meeting that they offer to try and just to do, so I can learn to be as good of a mayor as I can possibly be for the city of Marysville. I feel that's important to continue to be educated and to follow the rules and to be as fair and across the board as I can be. So.
We spend a lot of time, we as the council, we as the community, talking about problems we have, fires that need put out. We don't spend enough time focusing on the good things that we have, the good things we do, how we can turn those into better things, how we can utilize those things to solve problems. I know a lot of people feel despair, like we don't listen, or their voices aren't heard, so they don't speak up. But I think we're lucky, all the candidates up here, and I'm speaking for school board and city, you're lucky, we're lucky to have all these people wanting to step up, who care. Whether you agree or disagree with their positions, it's great. Be part of that. Speak up to these people. Don't give up. Don't despair. I think we can, improve what we have, which is a great community, and we can make it better and stronger. And being part of that would be an honor. It's been an honor for as long as I've been on council and on the other committees and groups I've served in town. So if I get your support, wonderful. But more than that, please support your community. Help make it all better together.
All right, before I go to Rose and the school board for final comments, because it's my last chance to talk, thank you from a benevolent dictator for your latitude tonight. I know some would prefer questions from the floor and person-to-person confrontation. I've watched the last two Republican debates, and I think we had a civil conversation tonight. And I like that we can sit shoulder to shoulder and respect each other, coming in and walking out. So thank you for your participation, Sarah. Thank you for taking the lead on this and putting it all together, and the Marysville Advocate for their coverage. Max is going to go to work with me on the radio side. Danny, thank you for BVTV. And again, that's Sunday night and the radio on Tuesday night. Rose, 1 minute for your wrap-ups on the candidates for school board.
We've covered a lot of really interesting topics tonight to learn about all of the concerns that people have. I'm running unopposed, so most likely will be on the school board. But I'm looking forward to just creating a positive change for our staff, our students, and just the overall Marysville School District. And knowing that some of the decisions that the school board makes now affects our children, but it also affects our children's children in the future. So we always have to keep those ones in mind. So, thanks.
Thank you for coming and supporting all of us here this evening. I just want to say that I'm running because education is very important to me. It's odd to be on this side of it now that I'm not teaching. I love all that I'm learning. I want to be, if elected, I would love to be a school board member that is approachable in the schools as much as possible, seeing everybody, just being a part of it. I also want to be a voice for the educators. I think they can get a little lost, and they're timid. They like to talk big to their peers, but it's hard to talk to people who make decisions. So I just would love to be that voice for them. Thanks.
And thanks for everybody for coming again. I wanted to run for school board because I just really felt like it was something that somewhere that I would be good at serving in. I'm very passionate about my kids and all the kids in the community, our next generation. That's what we need to invest in if we want our community to be better down the road. And I think it's important that our kids have someone to stand up for them and look out for them in their education. We need to be there for our teachers and faculty as well. But at the end of the day, there are some students that only have us to stand up and be a voice for them.
Thank you all for coming tonight. The reason I am running for school board and why I want your vote is over the last year I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. I've spent time with Darren Schrader. I've spent time talking to other school board members, talked to a lot of people in the community and some teachers. There are definitely some issues out there that we're facing and we need to overcome. And anybody that knows me, if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to do my best to get it done. That's just the way I am. We may not always agree on stuff, but we can have that conversation. And some of you out there know that because I've had those conversations. So the students need a voice, these teachers need a voice, and I'd be glad to step into that role and do that for them. Thank you.
I guess I care about kids. I care about our community, our staff, our faculty. I think a good education might get some students to even return to Marysville. We would love that. Constituents are who elect us and who reach out to us and who we need to also listen to. If you've got concerns, I've always felt like my phone and everything's been on and open and available for conversation. There are some things that I don't think everybody understands, and I think this goes for the council also, that what's done in executive session, that you don't always have both sides of the story. It's not an easy position, but it's one I am very passionate about. I care about our kiddos, so thank you.
Yeah, thank everybody for coming here tonight. Something I think I might have failed to mention in my opening comment is that my wife of 23 years is also a para at the elementary school. So I have a wife who's in the elementary school, 2 kids in the high school right now, and I will have a kid in that high school for the next 7 years, whether it's 2 or 1. So I have a lot of invested in this, a lot of future that needs to come out of this yet. Communication seems to be a major problem no matter what school you're in here in this district. There seems to be a breakdown back and forth and back and forth. I'd like to be on the board. I've talked to a couple board members that are currently on the board and asked, do you go talk to the teachers one-on-one? And they said, no, they don't. That's kind of looked down upon. And I was like, what? That sounds absolutely ridiculous. You should go talk to the teachers. You should walk the hallways of this school. You should see how it operates day to day. And talk to the teachers and talk to the staff and talk to the paras and talk to the bus drivers and know what their wants and needs are so that you can represent them at a school board meeting. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. Good luck, candidates. I think the registration's open through October 17, and then maybe advance ballots come out, and November 7 might be election day. So be an active participant. Sarah? That's your reward for being a great audience tonight. Thanks. Be safe.